Welcome to the Motherhood Alliance podcast, the podcast dedicated to empowering moms and families on their health and wellness journey. I'm Brittany Suttner.
And I'm Andrea Rankus. Together, we're here to explore holistic approaches that go beyond conventional medicine.
Each week, we dive into topics that matter most to you, everything from nutrition and mental health to alternative therapies and natural living.
We'll bring you the expert interviews, insightful discussions, and practical tips to make motherhood a little easier and help your family thrive.
Please keep in mind that this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only and is not intended to replace the advice, diagnosis, or treatment plans you have with your personal healthcare team. Please have a conversation with your trusted healthcare provider prior to making any changes or implementing any strategies or advice you learn from this podcast.
Whether you're a new mom navigating the early stages of parenthood or a seasoned pro looking for new ways to support your family's well-being, you're in the right place.
Here at the Motherhood Alliance podcast, we challenge the status quo, ask the tough questions, and offer a supportive community for moms who want to make an informed, holistic choice.
Thank you for joining us on this journey.
Let's get started. Hi, we are Britt and Drea from motherhoodalliance.com, and we are excited to welcome you to a 3-episode series with Dr. Kate Williams, the owner of Well Within Chiropractic, right here in Appleton, Wisconsin. She is a family wellness chiropractor who has extensive training through the International Chiropractic Pediatric Association. She is Webster certified, she's a certified digestive health professional, and she offers cranial sacral therapy and nutritional counseling in her office. While she works with people of all ages, she has a special heart for kids, babies, and pregnant and postpartum mamas. When she's not caring for families, you'll usually find her reading, hiking, kayaking, or hanging outside with her 2 kids and husband. We are so excited for you to hear from her today. She brings such a grounded, refreshing perspective to health and healing, and these episodes are amazing. Let's dive in. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Motherhood Alliance podcast. We are super excited to welcome Dr. Kate to the show. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
I love the episodes that you picked here because you are a chiropractor, and we've had chiropractors on in the past, but you picked some topics that are completely different, completely new. I think they're going to be really interesting things to think about and applicable to everyone. So we're really excited to dive into those. And today we're going to be talking about symptoms and big emotions and like what is your body actually telling you through those. But before we get into that, let's talk about a fun fact about you because we like to get to know you a little bit as a first-time guest here. And you shared that you love to work in your office in your socks.
I do.
What's up with that?
I've just never been like super comfortable in shoes. I just feel like I'm more comfortable, especially when I'm on my feet all day. It also, I feel like helps me kind of ground as I'm working with people. I can be sensitive to other people's energy. And I find that when I have worked in my shoes, a lot of times like my feet just get incredibly hot. So it's just kind of uncomfortable. It's also just great for like balance and proprioception and all of that. So yeah,
I feel like it's more homey too. Like you're just more comfy.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah.
So.
I love that. So let's talk about chiropractic specifically. How did you get into this industry? Is it something that you like knew you wanted to be since you were 5, or how did this kind of come about in your life?
When I was little, I actually like knew I wanted to be in healthcare. Even when I was very little, I always talked about like I wanted to be a doctor. I think for a brief time there, I wanted to be like a surgeon or something when I was like 5, not your typical 5-year-old dream. But then as I got more into high school, I was trying to kind of explore different paths and was kind of trying to find the right fit. And then in college, that kind of even grew where I felt like I was just changing my major a lot. Felt like I kind of tried on every healthcare major that the school offered. And then a dear friend of mine at one point was like, "What are you looking for?" And I wish I could capture whatever I said to her, but just talked about wanting to get to the root cause and not just, treat things with a pill. And she knew a chiropractor at that time and was like, "It kind of sounds like this. Like, have you explored it?" I really was not familiar with chiropractic at all. Just it kind of was the nudge to start pursuing it. And it just literally felt like this missing piece that I had been looking for so long.
I love that. That's the way you were thinking in college. You want the root cause and not just the Band-Aid approach. That's super cool. Yeah.
How far into your schooling were you when you finally found this?
Probably like my junior year of college.
Oh, wow.
So
did you have a lot of the like basic classes you needed then, or did you almost have to start over?
Yeah, because I was in healthcare, and even it's funny, even in the healthcare thing of like, I would take a physics class and then I would change like from, nursing to physical therapy or whatever. Like I was like, oh, you need this physics class. There was some variation, but I had taken so many different biology and chemistry and physics classes that there was a little overlap, but.
So then did you know you wanted to start your own business right away, or is that something that morphed?
I did not know. That kind of morphed actually after graduating and kind of working in some different offices and just kind of learning, and yeah.
Well, and I know that your favorite clientele is the mamas, kiddos, pregnancy, postpartum. How did you find that niche?
That was actually in school as well. So there was at the chiropractic college I went to, there was a pediatrics club. So I was very involved in that right from the beginning. I think I've always loved working with kids. So I was eventually president of that club, and then started actually taking some of the training through the International Chiropractic Pediatric Association while I was in school.
Okay. Fun. I love it.
Yeah.
And I've been in Dr. Kate's office. She has such a comfortable, not only the socks thing, but just your office in general is just so comfortable and welcoming. So I would highly recommend those of you in the Appleton area to check it out. So let's jump into today's content. So you really wanted to have an episode to talk about how our symptoms and our emotions are ways that our body communicates with us. Can you share a little bit more about just this overall as a concept to get us started?
Yeah. I think in general, sometimes a common thought process I will see is people think that their body is failing them when they're coming in with some sort of pain or some sort of condition. It's why is this happening? What is my, what's going on with my body? And the biggest thing I just like to let people know is it's literally just a form of communication. When you're driving and your check engine comes on, you don't get mad at your car and say, wow, what's wrong with you? Right? It's okay, I'm going to bring it to the mechanic and see what's wrong so I can get this addressed. And I think both symptoms can definitely be that way. It's just your body trying to tell you something hey, I didn't like how you had poor posture all day, or I didn't like how you lifted that, or whatnot. We can certainly get more into that. And as well as, just emotions, it's feedback, and it's not necessarily meant to uproot your entire life, but it's just your body's way of trying to get you back in our body. I think a lot of times we live in our heads, and we have a body for a reason. We're meant to also experience life through our body. And so sometimes I feel symptoms are our body's way of trying to pull us back down.
Well, and emotions and symptoms are your physical and mental states interconnect so much.
Yeah.
So I love that we're having this conversation.
Yes, for sure.
I feel the physical side makes sense to me really quickly. It's okay, like you said, if you lift something weird, kink in your back, okay, well, clearly that was something that was either weak, or I picked up something that was too heavy, something like that.
People can relate. Yeah.
Physical symptom makes sense. But the emotional piece, aren't emotions more so based on experiences, either things that you've maybe past traumas, but also experiences you're having in the moment when your toddler's having a fit and you're just feeling all sorts of emotions, or it's more about perception. So tell me a little bit more about how emotions are connected to all this.
Yeah. So first of all, I do feel if you think about just from a very broad line of if you've had a really stressful day, you're probably going to feel tightness in your neck and in your back, and you're going to feel your nervous system is kind of on high alert. So your body is going to kind of go more into that protective, fetal type state, which is when we think about the rounded shoulders, that's kind of what it's doing. That's kind of what we do when our body's in fight or flight. So that's one thing that our body will react to. But, for example, with an emotion, it is also sometimes here to guide us. And it's more recognizing when you kind of have repeat emotions. If I just have, I don't know, I'm just thinking of somebody who's not me because I own my own business, but somebody who, maybe they have a job and they might have one bad day at work, right? And so something makes them angry. That doesn't mean that they should just take that anger and go tell off their boss and quit their job. That's, we don't want to be that reactive to our emotions. And I think as parents, we can recognize that because that's kind of how our kids react to emotions.
Oh, yeah.
And our brains are, as adults, and we'll get into that later, but our brains are more fully developed so we can hold it together and process and regulate that anger. But if you're consistently angry at work and you feel every time I leave work, I'm angry, okay, what is going on there? What is that emotion trying to tell you? So maybe it's that your boss is asking you to work too many hours. So maybe you thought when you signed on that I'm working 40 hours a week, and all of a sudden it's been pushed to nope, you're supposed to be working 50, 55 hours. And this is a consistent thing. It's not just every week. That's kind of a boundary that's been broken or not set up. And oftentimes that's what I see with anger. So we're all going to have moments, especially if we're moms, like our kids are going to push us to our limits. That doesn't mean we just need to have some big reaction. But when an emotion keeps kind of presenting itself to you, spending some time, whether journaling or just thinking about, okay, what is the underlying thing with this?
Yeah. And it's not just thinking like emotions are separate too. It's going to manifest itself into physical.
100%. Yeah. For sure. Yeah. If you're angry all the time, it's going to show up in different ways, and just how you show up for your family, and how, it's going to be expressed in your body somehow. So,
as a chiropractor, what are kind of some ways that you've seen people start to show physical symptoms from underlying emotions or stress or things like that?
the big one that comes to mind right now sometimes is the lower back pain. Oftentimes, again, if somebody has a physical reason of like, hey, I lifted something heavy and my back went out, okay, that might be the physical one. But oftentimes when somebody's presenting with lower back pain, they might be like, I didn't do anything. Like I lifted up something super light, or I just woke up with this. And interestingly enough, lower back pain, and this goes back to like Louise Hay's work. If anyone is familiar with her, she has a book that connects a lot of times like how physical symptoms, how they are showing up in the body from kind of unprocessed emotions. And oftentimes lower back stuff has to do with lack of financial support or things like that. So I have seen that where maybe somebody is struggling financially, or they just fought with their spouse about money, or maybe they're thinking about being a stay-at-home mom, or there can be so many reasons. It doesn't just mean like, their financials are totally crumbling, but just if they're trying to almost navigate a new situation, oftentimes because of that lack of support, it might be showing up as lower back pain.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
That's really fascinating. I'm really curious to read that book now because, and we'll link that inside the show notes as well. But like for my husband, he always has low back pain, and it's not that it's always financial issues, but he's always thinking about that kind of stuff. So
For sure.
This makes sense. And I wonder what else symptom wise he's harboring.
Yeah. So to expand on that, is this also saying that if somebody is having more like relational stress ongoing, it might show up in a different way, or like
For sure.
It's so interesting.
That is really interesting.
So it can, I'm certainly not looking at it with every single person I see, but especially when they're coming to me and they're talking it out and they just seem really like, I don't understand where this is coming from. I don't get where my body is, what it's trying to tell me. It kind of sometimes can be a good time to call the book or reach for the book and, say, hey, does this resonate with you? And more often than not, usually I just have them read it themselves, to be honest, because it feels really personal. But oftentimes they will, choose to share with me, wow, I'm going through this and this and this, and this makes so much sense. And it doesn't necessarily mean that like, oh, I made that connection, I'm going to instantly feel better. But oftentimes it just helps them kind of look at it more broadly and not just think, oh, hey, this is just my lower back.
Yeah.
So
I feel like this is a good opportunity to, like Brittany said, we can all relate to the physical symptoms. We'll come to a chiropractor because our back hurts, right? But then a lot of us don't connect with our emotions. We're not thinking about them. We're not being intentional about how we're feeling about things.
Yes.
We just kind of go through the motions. And so,
for sure,
having like somebody asking them about things a little bit deeper, I feel like is super helpful.
Yeah.
And for all of us to just kind of realize that our physical being is not separate from our mental and emotional being. Like it has to be. It's all
same.
Connected. It is all connected.
It is all connected.
I love that.
So it's really cool. I like to even think, kind of going back to the emotions of, really sometimes spending some time thinking about it, because I think of like jealousy is a great one where you might, be envious of somebody in your life, and you might see stuff that they have and you're like, I want that, or whatever. A lot of times like dig deeper, because it's not just,
for sure.
It's not just like money. It would obviously be an easy one, right? Where somebody might see somebody who has more money than them, and it'd be easy to be like, well, I'm jealous of how much money they have. Well, okay. Like I might be jealous of somebody who has more than something that I have, but like, I'm not jealous of Taylor Swift. Like I wouldn't want to be in Taylor Swift's shoes for one day, and she has an immense amount of money. So for me, it's like, it's not about the money. It's some underlying issue of like, do they have more freedom? Can they vacation more? Like what aspect is it? It's not just like, I think we can get hung up on money and like, what is it truly? Do they have more time to spend with their kids? Or, you know, what aspect of it is it that you're looking for in your life?
I love that. Dig deeper into why you're feeling those emotions for sure.
Well, that's probably going into, we've talked about on multiple episodes, and we're just going to keep singing it because nobody does this and we need to, but it's like taking quiet time, right? To really be able to think through some of these things. So if somebody's experiencing a physical symptom or they're identifying a repeated emotion that's big and something needs to be, you know, decompressed or figured out, where do they start? Now, you're a chiropractor, so I'm assuming having a good functioning neurological system is going to be helpful. So walk us through a little bit about how you can help, especially with the emotional side. Again, the physical side kind of makes sense to most people, but especially the emotional side. And then what else can we do outside of chiropractic that can help these things?
Yeah. I think just, you know, so much of the time, as I kind of mentioned earlier, like the body is trying to get you back into your body. So I think certainly from a chiropractic standpoint, when you're getting adjusted and getting like those emotions kind of moving, it can definitely help. So I find even, and I'm sure massage therapists or other body workers could say the same thing of like, when somebody is, you know, when you're working and releasing on their body, there are going to be times that they just start talking or stuff just needs to come out because those emotions have just been kind of sitting there. And so I think that can just be the first step of helping to get things flowing again, helping to make sure that your brain and body are communicating as they should. And we're taking some of that stress and releasing that stress off the body. So chiropractic absolutely can be an integral part. But I definitely think, like just simple things like going for a walk, moving can be really helpful. I know a couple weeks ago, I was just having a stressful time with my kids. And I just like said to my husband, like, I just need to just go for a walk. I need to move my body. That can definitely be a huge piece of it. And then I think sometimes just kind of doing a little bit of like journaling, which I'll be honest, I was not a big fan of journaling for a long time, but it doesn't have to be this like, I need to sit here and write for 30 minutes. Sometimes just like free flowing and just allowing yourself to write. And sometimes that can honestly just be like, if you're angry, like maybe just like rage writing and just getting it all out and like knowing, hey, I can burn this paper so nobody sees it again.
It's true.
Just like getting all of that out to keep that emotion like moving and helping you understand what's underneath it.
Yeah. I would also say support too. I mean, like if you if you feel like you can reach out to somebody,
definitely.
Or even if you don't want to talk about it,
yes,
just even meeting up with a friend with coffee and just
definitely
just getting out.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So
I know I've heard you talk about being a screen door and not a sponge. What does that mean?
So I think about especially, and this is, I can be very empath. So this has been something I've had to learn the hard way of it can be very easy to like take on other people's emotions. Like I can take on my kids' emotions. I can take on my husband's emotions or my patient's emotions, but like then I'm kind of being a sponge and I'm holding that all. And I can only do that for so long. So I did not create this analogy. I don't remember where I heard it, but it just clicked of like, okay, I'm just, you think about if your emotions are like a breeze, right? You're just going to like let it go through your screen. You're like, okay, I'm going to let that come through me. I can be helpful and supportive, but like at the end of the day, like those emotions aren't mine to process. So I can just kind of let them flow through me versus like being like a sponge and soaking it all in.
I feel like a lot of the women listening to this right now should probably pause and reverse, back, rewind a little bit, like 15 seconds and listen to that again because, oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. Women tend to stew on or repeat past conversations or feelings or experiences or situations. And we like, just like I said, stew on those over and over. And we kind of re-feel those feelings. What tip do you have for those women that are kind of doing that a lot?
I mean, it's definitely, it's a practice. I think first of all, it has to be an awareness of recognizing when you're having repeat thoughts. It's kind of like if anyone's done meditation before, the first time you sit down to meditate, if you've never meditated before, all these thoughts keep popping in your heads or in your head. And you might want to just like, why can't I meditate? And ultimately I remember hearing an analogy of like, okay, when that thought comes in, like think of it as like a bubble and you're just going to pop it. Like, And you're not going to judge it. You're not going to be mad that, oh, that thought popped in my head, but just being aware, okay, that's there. I'm going to let it go.
I love that.
And continuing to do that. So especially like recognizing, especially if it's like before you fall asleep, you know, if you do need to like get something out on paper, and I always like to have some like a journal by my bed so that if there's something I have to write down, but sometimes just recognizing like, hey, I have this thought. Okay, I'm going to let that go. I'm not going to sit there and ruminate on it. Kind of a side note, but I think about, I like to be on time. And so there are times, especially having children, that all of a sudden you're not on time. And I can sit here and drive and be like, I'm so late, and be so stressed. And if that's not going to change me, like getting there on time.
Yeah,
like I'm still
sure.
not on time. And so I've tried to catch myself now when I'm feeling that way of like, okay, take a deep breath. Like I'm going to be late. Like that's just a fact. Like me stressing about it is only going to be harmful to my body.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of times it's just recognizing like, hey, this thought keeps popping in my head. Is there really anything I can do about it? And if there's not, like kind of like pop the bubble and, but it's definitely a practice. It's,
Oh my gosh, I love that. That was so good. Yeah.
And I know that you also have some background in digestive support. Tell us a little bit about your digestive support that you offer through your office, but then like how does that kind of loop into this conversation as well?
So there are different stress points that Dr. Howard Loomis had discovered in the body that can kind of tell us different deficiencies that the body might be struggling with. So it might show us that you're struggling with like lipid deficiency or protein deficiency. There's a whole bunch of them, but that can help us kind of relate to, for example, if somebody is protein deficient, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're not eating enough protein. It could be, and that's going to be my first thing of like, let's review what you're eating. Are you consuming enough protein? But somebody might be consuming enough protein, but their body is not able to digest it, because what breaks food down in our body, aside from like our teeth and all that stuff, is something called digestive enzymes. And so if we don't have enough digestive enzymes, or we're relying on our body to release a lot of that, that can be really stressful to the body. So for example, one really basic thing is just chewing our food, slowing down and chewing our food. Most of us kind of rush through certain meals and we're not chewing. And so then we're actually putting a huge strain on our pancreas to help try to like push out more of those digestive enzymes when things get down to our small intestine. So we'll definitely kind of look at different supportive of, do we need some digestive enzyme support? And then how can we help support your body? And like I said, slowing down, taking that like quiet, intentional time, and not eating in such a like stress state. So, yeah.
I think some people do just like having something tangible that they can do too, and this is something where if you can talk through, and if their symptoms or their either physical or emotional symptoms are making sense, like this may be something tangible that they can feel like they're progressing.
Yes.
Even though this is going to be a little bit of a journey.
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
You also offer craniosacral therapy.
Yes.
What is that? Just give us a definition and help us understand that.
So craniosacral therapy is going to help with how the cerebral spinal fluid moves through your body. So cerebral spinal fluid kind of moves through the brain, down the spinal cord and back up. And sometimes if our cranial bones get a little bit restricted, there is, even though it seems like your cranium doesn't move at all, there is actually like a slight movement that happens depending on which cranial bone you're talking about. It'll move in a certain direction, and there should be kind of a very slight movement that is going through with the body. And when that is restricted, that can really kind of impede how your nervous system is functioning. And so through doing some craniosacral and helping restoring some motion to that area, it can help us restore that function. So the cerebral spinal fluid is kind of flowing much better. It also can just bring a lot of like calm and relaxation to the body as well. So oftentimes I'm finding when I'm working with people, they're really kind of stuck in fight or flight. That's kind of the world that we live in. And so doing a lot of that work can just bring calm and safety to the body, which number one, like the body is not going to heal if it doesn't feel safe. And so oftentimes with the different techniques that we're using, I'm not going to necessarily, I certainly do traditional chiropractic care in my office, but if somebody comes to me and I can tell based on their exam or talking to them that they're in a really stressful state, like we just need to bring a lot of calm and safety to their body so that they can heal.
I feel like a lot of people hear about craniosacral therapy for infants. This is for adults too.
Yes. So yeah, you can honestly I do craniosacral on a lot of ages. It's certainly, absolutely in like every infant adjustment that I do, but certainly with adults, there are probably like small pieces that are just kind of have incorporated into the adjustment work. But then I have some people who really thrive with it. And so then we'll almost do like an added thing where they're getting an adjustment and craniosacral therapy. So yeah.
You're a wealth of knowledge. I mean, we could do a whole episode on the digestive support or the craniosacral therapy, honestly. So, but I feel like this was such an encouraging episode. Number one, to like help people feel seen. Like if you're having physical symptoms or big emotions, like it's okay. You can, there's a step forward that you can do, right?
Absolutely.
You are offering $25 off a new patient exam for those of you who are interested in connecting with Dr. Kate and learning more about what she does and what she offers. You just mentioned MA Podcast, the Motherhood Alliance podcast, to her, and she'll honor that for you. If somebody would like to take advantage of that or just continue this conversation with you specifically, how would they reach you?
So my website is Well Within Fox Valley, and you can connect through my email. I'll be honest, I'm not on social media a ton, probably like not a great way to get a hold of me, but I do have obviously like kind of through my website or email. So yeah.
Perfect. Thanks for this episode. We do have 2 more episodes coming up with Dr. Kate. In our next one, we're going to be talking about how to start and end your day with more peace and less stress. Dr. Kate is a parent just like we are, and so we're excited to rack her brain and different tips and tricks around that. And then in our 3rd episode with her, we're going to be talking about postpartum mental health. So that's going to be a really great episode because I know a lot of people have struggled in that arena. Thank you for coming on this podcast, Dr. Kate.
Thank you.
We'll be back soon. If you enjoyed this episode, would you consider leaving a rating or review or sharing it directly with a friend who could benefit from the information? We know that you're a busy mom or caregiver, and our goal is to make your life easier by bringing tips and tricks directly from experts into your earbuds. By sharing this episode with someone you love, you can play a critical role in helping to make their life easier as well. We appreciate your time, and thank you for being a part of the Motherhood Alliance family.